Welcome to Bare Lifestyle, the podcast where we speak up and speak out about all taboo topics and make them normal and acceptable. You are invited to be curious, to try something new, and stay open to provocative perspectives. I'm your host, Simona Spark, a best-selling author, international speaker, transformational coach, and so many other things. Beyond anything else, I'm a woman who stopped following other people's rules and started creating my own. In this space, we are going to get naked by stripping away insecurities, self-judgments, and all kinds of limitations so we can reach in for the essence of who we really are bare. Beautiful, authentic, real, and ever evolving. Thanks for listening. Welcome back, everyone. Let's celebrate everyone. I'm celebrating you, and I'm celebrating me, and I'm celebrating our amazing guest today, Kristin. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back. For those of you that you are back in our bare space, and for those of you that are here for the first time, welcome. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to my new friend, Kristin. Welcome, Kristin.
Hi, Simona.
All right, so let me pull my notes. So I have her little bio just to tell you in a few seconds who she is, but know that in the description, we have all the links. You have the link to her website and all the things are there, and the Facebook page that you could find her, and the Instagram handle that you could follow her. But Kristin is here as a teacher, a leader, a sexuality coach, and a voice for women's sexual empowerment. Alongside her live and online events, she runs a boutique coaching practice supporting women who experience pain or numbness during sex, low libido, inability to orgasm, destructive patterns and trauma in sex and relationships, sexual shame, fear, guilt, lack of voice, and personal agency. I want to talk about all of these today. So here we are. It's morning here, 10 a.m. in Los Angeles, and Kristin and I, we are both in the same city. Yep. Very rare when that happens with my guests. And what a beautiful way to start the week. So what do you feel called to talk about today from this variety of juicy topics?
Well, I really feel called to talk to women in particular about the level of agency and confidence and empowerment they can feel when they start to kind of own and celebrate and cherish their bodies and their sexuality. And the way that I was able to come to this place on my journey, because it certainly wasn't always like this, was, reconnecting to self and body through pleasure, right? And pleasure is such it's such a big word, it's a big topic. But like a little bit about my story is, when I started to connect to my body from the inside out, rather than just focusing on it externally, is when my whole life changed, because a little bit about my history is I really struggled with body image. I had really severe eating disorders, really hated myself, criticized myself, scrutinized the way that I looked and how my body looked, and was needing this kind of external source of validation. I based my worthiness on how much I weighed, and it was a very, very kind of twisted relationship I had with the external appearance of my body. So it wasn't until I started to connect to my body from the inside out and starting to realize that there's this pleasure that lives in my body all the time if I go inwards, right? And to stop obsessing and focusing on my external appearance and start to realize that I have this source of goodness, of joy, of pleasure, of femininity, of sexuality that has nothing to do with the way that I look, with my external appearance. And so it was
Ah,
this huge shift in my mentality when I started to unpack the relationship I had with my body and the way that I use sex and love to try and get validation, right, externally. And it was really when I focused on kind of healing the relationship with my body and my sexuality from the inside out was when I started to feel like I didn't need permission from anyone else. Like my worthiness is inherent to me just by way of existence. And this was really from working with pleasure and with like sacred sexuality and really recognizing that my body is this sacred, incredible temple. And it has nothing to do with how much I weigh, right?
yes, yeah, I'm so loving all of this, and thank you so much for let us into your story, into your own personal journey. And it's so empowering because I'm pretty sure there is a lot of people in our audience or viewers, they're wondering like, how can I experience pleasure when I have extra pounds? How I That's not for me because I'm too big or I'm too small or I'm too. And I just want to invite you guys. Like last week, we did the Bear Boot Camp program, which, by the way, I drop it in a STA, in a Spark Transformation Academy, and I drop it here on YouTube. You could watch it for free. And that's exactly what Kristin is talking about. Like, how do we connect through our perception, through our senses? How do we focus not on what we experience from outside in, but actually connect with the inside pleasure? As simple as like eating a fruit, a strawberry. Like, yeah, we could make it about the strawberry, which is absolutely outstanding, but really take a moment, is like what that does to your tongue, how that feels in your mouth, the taste, the texture, the vibration, the sensation, and really take it all in and allow it to be a pleasurable moment, not
Mhm.
just feeding to not be hungry.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I teach women is how to slow down, right? So really it's like almost like step number 1 is like to actually to get really present and to really slow down and be aware of of your actions, of being aware of your thoughts, but like adding more pleasure really I think is about this slowness because we live in such a fast-paced world. It's next, 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 and to actually pull back and be like, what's the and we're also usually going for these really big peak experiences, right? And there's nothing wrong with having peak experiences and going for these like really big sensational experiences, but that's just one part of the spectrum, right? The spectrum is so big in how we can actually receive and give ourselves pleasure. That's not just maybe one or two habitual ways that you go about it, right? So it's really increasing the capacity for the subtlest sensations or experiences of pleasure, and not to just overlook those or bulldoze those or go too fast, because we're kind of like conditioned to go for these like big peak, experiences.
Yes, and I do want to acknowledge people in audience that so here's the thing though, what I try to say here. Hold on, breathe, take a sip.
Take a sip.
I'm so excited, like you are talking and my brain goes like yes, but the peaks, the ups and the downs and the variety, those are all part of an amazing life experience, and we need to dance with the flow and with the main intention of taking the pleasure out of it. Now, that being said, and I like that you say to slow down and don't rush to things, I want to acknowledge that usually, generally speaking, and the concept of time is that when we love something, the time just disappear, and that's
Mm,
where automatically, like subconsciously, kind of we choose to just prolong it, to stay there longer because it feels good. And the
mhm.
opposite is true as well. If we are in pain and whatever, we just want to be done, and the time feels like, oh, well, it's never done. So when it's coming to sexual pleasure, to personal pleasure, just be aware of yourself. It's like, are you rushing through your sex? And
Mm,
why that might be? Is it
mm.
because it's triggering a previous trauma? Is it because you actually don't experience pleasure? And allow yourself to be honest with yourself. Like that is the starting point of healing, of expanding or coming out of there and actually have a good experience. Now, that being said, I would really love to hear from you, like your um, perspective on how one could bring themselves into at least a neutral space when it's come to sexual pleasure after a sexual trauma.
After a sexual trauma. Well, I mean, that's, yeah, a very big topic. But again, like creating, okay, so sexuality really takes us to the deepest places within ourselves. And it's often because it's the place where we hold the most fear, the most shame, the most guilt.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start to work on our sexuality, or when we want to start to heal, let's say sexual trauma, or even just like the relationship with our bodies, um, it's really kind of, we have to kind of go in and see what are the self-limiting beliefs, where are we holding conditioning, where have we felt violated before, like all of these pieces we kind of have to start to unpack and excavate. So, to kind of move from that place, feeling a lot of fear, feeling a lot of guilt, feeling a lot of shame, into a place where you're in reverence of your sexuality, you're celebrating your body, you're really able to almost choose to feel pleasure in any given moment because you're that kind of connected to yourself, and that inner resource of goodness, that inner resource of everything's okay, I am worthy, and I can allow myself to feel good. I mean, that is a beautiful journey, right? And that's a
Mm-hmm.
journey that I support women in, and really, it's my life's work, is to really get women from A to B, right? And to
Right.
support them and to show them tools. So, the first is acceptance, right? We've got to get clear, and we've got to really accept where we are. Like, these are the first two steps to integrating or transforming anything. It's like, okay, where am I at? And get really real and honest with yourself. Can I accept that this is where I'm at right now? So we're not
And
constantly in a state of resistance to
yeah,
what
and we
is.
know it's accepted when there is no judgments. Like I'm at and what I'm at, and I'm not judging myself for being where I'm
Exactly. Exactly. And there's no judgment and there's no resistance, right? Like, I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this, right? It's like, what happens when we start to use love, compassion, self acceptance, slowness, gentleness to meet these parts of ourself that we want to look at, that we want to change, that we want to integrate, that we want to feel like they're not holding us back or holding us down or blocking us from where we actually want to be and how we actually want to feel in our lives. So, using, so we're so mean to ourselves, like often those voices inside of it, they're so mean. And so really is it start to reframing and starting to, when we feel all of that agitation or that fear, or it feels like we might die because, there's so much fear, shame, we feel so stuck, frozen. It's how to really soften and how to be really gentle and loving and accepting with ourselves. And that's a practice, right? So, I mean, all
at.
of this is about practice. It's about retraining the brain, reforming the relationship with your body to slow down and be gentle and compassionate and loving with oneself, right? And those are really the first steps. And then be willing to sit in the discomfort, but knowing that there's something bigger, and that there's something, that you can still access that place of self-love and compassion, and be willing to sit in that discomfort of looking at this stuff, right? And
Yes.
bringing stuff up. And so, self-pleasure practice, which is the main modality that I work with women around, it doesn't always look like, like I'm going to have, get my toys and have these amazing, wild ecstatic orgasms. What I teach as self pleasure practice is to just meet what is alive for you in your body in the moment and be willing to meet it, be willing to feel it. And then, if it feels possible, be willing to transmute or almost kind of transmute those feelings and see if there's still a way that you can add pleasure even while feeling uncomfortable or even while meeting these really sticky, messy, shadowy parts of
Right,
yourself.
right.
Can we still actually find places in our body that are a little bit pleasurable? Or can we start to bring so much love and compassion and to ourselves, and then start to use the tools of breath, of sound, of movement, of self-touch to somatically move that trauma, that stickiness, that those self-limiting beliefs, that disempowering conditioning
Mm.
through the body, right? So we have to kind of go in and almost excavate all of this up, and then we get to add pleasure in order to almost feel, to rewire the body, the brain to feel good, to feel okay, to feel worthy, to feel pleasure, to
Yeah.
have that energy then to really go for what you want.
Yeah, so we are moving the energy, we are shifting the energy. And I do want to acknowledge, as a survivor of sexual abuse, and as a survivor of human trafficking, and as a survivor of emotional abuse, what I noticed for the beginning of my journey, my healing journey, is that when we are like so conditioned and so used with abuse and trauma,
Hmm.
then not only that we are living life out of fear and guilt and shame, as you mentioned, but also it's all I know.
Yeah.
So when all these people or circumstances or situation were no longer in my life, I self-abuse because it's
Mhm.
all I knew, and it's all I knew, that it's all I was used with,
Or
until
programmed
you
to. Yeah.
flip it, until you tilt it just a little bit and you say, oh wait, there is another way of living life.
Mm.
And it's not even so much focusing on the trauma or how to I heal and how to release the trauma, as is like just choosing a better feeling sensation, choosing a more exciting life, and choosing pleasure instead of pain.
Yeah.
And as I described it before, for those of you that are here back and back and back, it's like you have a full glass with this much trauma. If you just drop more pleasure, more bliss, and eventually everything will just pour out. So we want to add, as Kristin was saying, adding more beautiful and pleasurable sensation, and then that's how we bring the good energy in, and the bad one has no other choice, is just to
It
be
starts to
released.
fall away.
Yes.
Exactly. It starts to
So
fall
like
away.
very organically, and this is where I keep saying, you guys, is like everybody has their own speed because of
Mhm.
this. We don't know, it's going to take as long as it's going to take, but you have to make that conscious decision and conscious choice every day. As Kristin was saying, it's a practice. It's not a
Practice.
method, it's not a formula, it's not magic, it's a practice.
Yeah.
Until it's just who you be.
Exactly. Exactly. For me, just personally, it's like I finally got so sick and tired of my own stories, of my own suffering, of my own just total negative self-image. It was just like it became, I was just so tired of it. It became boring. And I was like, you know what? And it was just kind of this moment where I'm like, there's another way. Like I know that there is another way. And that's what, and then focusing again, because my sexuality took me to those deepest, most fearful, most stickiest parts. Then I was able to see it, and I was able to liberate it through choosing, right? Through practicing, through examining these kind of weird, twisted, self-limiting beliefs, and starting to just like excavate, move them, breathe them, somatically express them through my body. And that's often what my self-pleasure would look like, right? It could just look like sitting on my bed, opening my heart, feeling my grief and sobbing.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then afterwards, really working like, oh, there was a release there. And then starting to like choose that high vibrational state, add some pleasure, add some self massage, talk sweetly to myself, right? Reconnecting to pussy and really reclaiming pussy for me first and foremost, not for everyone else, which is again what we're kind of conditioned as women, is that our bodies and our sexuality are for others.
Yes, for me. But when we do that, like the ripple effect is so much powerful. It's like teaching other women around us, our sisters, our daughters, right? Like, yes, for me, but just when you say I don't need anybody's permission, but at the point that I allow myself to give myself the permission to feel good, I've done it because somebody else showed me that that's possible, and it's around, and it's okay, and it's fantastic.
Yes.
So,
Oh, 1,000%.
right,
It was more in the way of like, we don't have to give everything to, you know what I mean? And this is more like in an intimate relationship, right? Because I
right,
work with a lot of women who were like, wow, my entire sex life was always about pleasing the other person.
right.
Right.
Well,
And
because
then,
if you don't, then you're selfish, right? That's the
yeah,
main belief. Like, I need to take care of my partner. If I don't do it, it just makes me selfish. It's like, wait a minute.
yeah, or my needs aren't valid, or my needs are less than, or I don't matter, right? Whatever this kind of stuff is. And so when we can at least first, there's like this point of like reclamation, right? Wait a minute, this, my body is for me, my sexuality is for me. And then when we kind of get to that place within ourselves and we really recognize, and we're able to stand up for ourselves and ask for what we need and go for our desires, like you said, and then we're doing it for the collective, right? Like, so we're
Yes.
really raising everyone up and empowering everyone, because we become, right, that change we want to see.
Right, right. And I like that you said, and it's this ingrained belief, and it's so conditioned from generation, like what's women role.
Yes.
And just as a sexual thing, or as the woman is here just to, procreate. And
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into the whole mess that's happening now.
No.
I want to keep it for the women, and just for the pleasure, and for really getting into our body, and allowed to receive pleasure through our body, not to rules, not to laws, not to our body. And when we do that, like, it's so personal and it's so individual, and that let me know that the way that I receive pleasure, it's my way. So
It's
nobody
unique.
can tell me you're supposed to feel like this and you're supposed to feel like that. No, you know how you're supposed to feel like when you go and you discover for yourself, because that's the way that you're supposed to feel like.
Exactly, right? It's such a deep process of self-discovery, and then to let go of the comparison or the needs to be perfect, right? So like in my programs, it's like you show up exactly as you are, messy, raw, so perfectly imperfect, like all of these things. It's not just about like, not only love, light, and good vibes, like that's often a byproduct though of actually just getting real and being authentic and starting to accept yourself on the deepest levels. And pleasure and self-pleasure and connecting to my body from the inside out, gave that to me, right?
Yes. Oh, I love that. So I have so many questions, and we only have so much time. So chances are that I'm going to invite you again.
Yay, I'd love to be back. I can talk about this
in so many different places. So for those of you that really connect with Kristin energy and want to find more about her work, please open the description and click on her website and all the links that I put under her name. So you could go and follow. She's running groups, she's doing coaching, she's doing workshops, she's doing all kind of things with the main intention of same intention that I have, into just bringing women into claiming their own power and just be bare, right? Beautiful, authentic, real, and fully expressed, and ever evolving. And for those of you that considering in joining me to the Bali retreat. We still have spots available. When the spots will not be available, then the sales page will disappear, and that's how you know. So just follow the link in the description, and we are going to Bali in October. Wow. In closing, I want to invite Kristin to give us a, let's say, best simple advice or tool that anyone could just grab it right now, apply it, and have a little shift in their life, what that might be.
Okay, the first thing that comes through is getting really present with yourself, right? And then just taking a few deep breaths into your heart, right? Very simple, but just to feel what is there and not make it wrong, right? Not judge it. Just be like, okay, this is what's alive for me in my body right now. I'm going to breathe into my heart and I'm going to feel. And, you know, feeling is just such, I mean, it's so important that we're able to connect to the feelings and the sensations that we have, right? So breathing into the heart, breathing into the pussy, slowing down, and just taking a moment to relish in like the magnificence and the miracle of your body and life.
So good. Like that alone is like, it's such a pleasurable, like just the thought or just the visualization is just allow yourself to feel how that, what that might feel like in your body. Again, it's gonna feel as it feels for you.
Yeah, and that's what's perfect. And it's always changing, right? Sometimes we think these emotional states are fixed, but to recognize the movement, the sensations are always changing, always moving in the body. And we can continue to orient towards feeling good, towards feeling pleasure without denying the discomfort that we might be feeling at the same time, right? Holding both is true. They can both be alive in your body at the same time.
Yes, the power of duality.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, love. I really appreciate your time. I cannot wait to have you back. Please join me in celebrating our audience, our viewers.
Cheers.
Celebrate you all, men, women, all of you. We are all here to coexist and experience pleasure together and alone and both.
Absolutely. Thanks, Simona.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. I would love to hear from you. What inspired you? What triggered you? And what interests you? Please join the conversation by leaving your comments and your insights. Explore more about Bear Experience at simonaspark.com/bear. I hope you listen, follow, rate, and review all of our episodes. I can't wait to have you back. Till then, be Bear. Beautiful, authentic, real, and ever evolving.